As we all know, Hillary Clinton has had a terrible last couple of weeks, but that means that she is sagging. It does not mean that Donald Trump is surging. But let's ask ourselves a more pertinent question. How does Trump compare to Bush, McCain, or Romney at this stage of the campaign? Hmm? Dan McLaughlin, aka the baseball crank, provided some of that unwanted perspective for Trumplicans this past Saturday at nationalreview.com. Now, Hillary Clinton has fumbled away most of her lead in the national head-to-head polling averages after leading handily in August, leading to a surge of enthusiasm or panic, depending upon how you view this race. It's the third time that Mrs. Clinton has sagged in the polling average. And unlike late May, after Trump's primary opponents dropped out and before Hillary's did, and late July, after his convention bounce, he has yet to pull ahead of her. That's right, Hillary Clinton is still leading, just not by as much. Like I said in an earlier video, Trump's ceiling is about where he is now, projected to be about 250 electoral votes. And that's per electionprojection.com. The Real Clear Politics map of state-by-state polling still has Trump losing the Electoral College 293 to 245. And that's even with Ohio, Florida, and Iowa currently. And even if he got ahead in North Carolina, he would still be down 278 to 260. So this is pretty much the high water mark for Trump. Now, the state-by-state polls are more important than the national averages right now, but they also tend to lag the trends in more regularly conducted national polls, so you really have to keep an eye on both. Also, the state-by-state poll averages now have the advantage if you think Gary Johnson or Jill Stein will draw a non-trivial number of votes, but most of them are drawn from 3- or 4-way polls. Now consider how the 4-way polls have Trump a little closer to Hillary, due mainly to Johnson sapping her advantage with younger voters, who mostly loathe Trump. The only way in which I'm young at heart, I suppose. And a less volatile race, partly because a 4-way average excludes some of the swingier polls. But here's the core point here, ladies and gentlemen, and especially all you Trump supporters. Your candidate still trails. Now let's add a little historical perspective then. 4 years ago, Mitt Romney was much further back than Trump is at this point, with Barack Obama still riding high on his convention bounce. The conventions were a month earlier this year because of the Summer Olympics than in 2012 or 2008, but would go on to surge into the lead in the national averages in mid-October after a strong win in the first debate. The overall pattern of that race was not so dramatically different. A seesaw between a Democrat lead and a few tightenings that pushed the GOP ahead for a moment. Mitt Romney was always weaker in the state-by-state polling, although in mid-October he was leading or even in several swing states that he ended up losing, some of them not especially narrowly. In Colorado, he led from October the 9th through October the 29th. In New Hampshire, he led from October the 19th through the 21st. In Virginia, from October 19th to November 2nd. In Florida, from October 8th to the end of the race. But, of course, Romney still lost Florida in the end. So what about 2008, the last time we had an election without an incumbent on the ballot? John McCain was in better shape in mid-September in the RCP national average than Trump, but with three big differences. He was coming down from a lead. His lead was the immediate post-convention bounce, and September 15, 2008 was the day that the Democrat financial logic bomb went off. And the moment when the 2008 financial crisis hit jailbreak levels of panic, driving the race decisively to the party out of power, in other words, at the time, the Democrats. Finally, we have 2004, and a trend that mirrored 2012. Bush was up big in September, but the race tightened after the first debate. Now, you'll notice that in absolute terms, Trump, even in a two-way race, is at 44.2%, compared to Bush's 49.2%, McCain's 45.7%, and Mitt Romney's 45.5%. He's still got the weakest support at this stage, referring to Trump. Hillary at 45.7% is running even with Obama in 2008 and ahead of John Kerry's 43.5% in 2004, but well below Obama's 2012 mark of 48.5%. Again, the two incumbents were much closer to 50% at this stage than any of the other candidates. Obama had a lot more locked-in support by this stage in 2012, but ended up with fewer votes than in 2008 because he didn't get the big break at the end from the financial crisis. What we can take away from this is that there's still probably at least one, maybe two more shifts to come in this race. And while a game changer of 2008 proportions is unlikely, it would be foolhardy just to project a straight line trend where Trump's current momentum holds. He still has more people to convince than any Republican nominee at this point since Bob Dole. And unlike Bob Dole, Trump doesn't have any chance of closing that deal. But we also know that with Gary Johnson in the mix and two outrageously unpopular candidates, one of them completely unconventional, history may not have all the answers, but yeah, it pretty much does.